So in today's video, I am going to be giving my AFC East power rankings. Now, before we get into the video, please consider liking and subscribing. And while you're at it, down below, follow me on Twitter. You can catch up with whatever I'm doing there on Twitter. So if you want to follow me, you can do that. But with all that being said, let's jump right into the video. So before I get into the actual rankings, let me first specify by saying I'm not a fan of any of these teams. I'm more of a football fan. So you're getting an outsider's perspective of each of these teams. So if I give a viewpoint on these, it's purely mine based off of my outside viewing. I'm not a fan of these teams. I don't follow, the Patriots on a weekly basis, so I don't know everything about them. I don't follow the Jets on a weekly basis. I can only give my opinion based off of what I see because I don't follow these teams every single week, week in and week out. I just know on paper certain things that they have done. So if I'm wrong about something, I understand completely. If I'm wrong, please down below, tell me where I'm wrong. I will happily understand. And if you have a viewpoint that you want to add to any of what I have to say, please do it. But I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm not a fan of any of these teams. All these rankings are just from my perspective. But coming in at number 4, I have the New York Jets. Now, obviously, the New York Jets had a fantastic offseason, mainly the draft, because I think they absolutely nailed the draft. They kind of blew me away with it because Joe Douglas, he knocked it out of the park. The New York Jets did not mess up the draft, which is honestly surprising because that is something that they're really good at doing. They're just really good at messing every single thing up. But when it comes to free agency, when it comes to the draft, I like everything that the New York Jets did. Because if we look at free agency first, they absolutely nailed free agency just right out of the bat. They added Jordan Whitehead to their secondary. They added CJ Uzomah, a veteran tight end, to give Zach Wilson some veteran presence on that offense. And he's a really solid tight end too, so that's always a good thing to have. And then Laken Tomlinson, so he's getting Zach Wilson's getting a lot of help on the offensive line. With those 3 pickups just in free agency alone, the Jets instantly were making an impact, and they were a team with what they were doing in free agency that was sparking my interest. But when it comes to the draft, I think the New York Jets by far had probably the best draft of anybody in the NFL. Like, they nailed it. Their first 2 picks that they had in the top 10 absolutely nailed it. Garrett Wilson, I like that pickup for Zach Wilson on the offensive side of the ball. That is going to help Zach Wilson have more weapons on the offense to go with guys like Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, CJ Uzomah. They drafted Breece Hall in the 2nd round. And so overall, the Jets offensively in the draft, they absolutely nailed it. Defensively, they nailed it. They drafted Sauce Gardner to help in that secondary as well. And then they traded back into the 1st round of this year's draft, took Jermaine Johnson. So overall, what the Jets did this offseason, they got proven talent in free agency. They took big swings in the draft. So really, even if 2 of those guys hit, 1 or 2 of those guys hit, the Jets absolutely would have nailed this draft. I like what the Jets have done. They, like I mentioned, they've drafted Breece Hall. So basically, they got 4 first-round talents in this year's draft. So the Jets, value-wise and everything they've done, they absolutely nailed it. I love what they did. And overall, this team should be better for Zach Wilson and Robert Saleh because obviously the Jets last year, they weren't really a good team in Robert Saleh's first year as the New York Jets head coach. Now, obviously, that's not all on Robert Saleh. He was put in a very tough situation with a really bad Jets team, and I thought he made the most of what he could. But overall, I think the Jets, they're doing everything to help Robert Saleh and his defense in particular, because with Robert Saleh being a defensive head coach, I thought the Jets did struggle quite a bit. They were a pretty bad defense. So bringing in guys like DJ Reed, Jordan Whitehead, drafting Sauce Gardner, bringing in Jermaine Johnson, things like that, I think that was a really good offseason haul for the New York Jets to improve everything they needed to improve on and become a better team. I'm not saying they're going to be a world-beating team. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but they're at least going to be a team that's more competitive. Look what they did against the Buccaneers last year. Very competitive team, played the Bucs close. So overall, everything the Jets have done, I really like them, and I think they're on the right track to becoming a good football team. Coming in at number 3, we have the Miami Dolphins. Now, obviously, they had an unbelievable offseason trading for Tyreek Hill, so that right out of the bat and showed that the Miami Dolphins, they wanted to go big. They wanted to get help around Tua. And they got that help around Tua because then they also signed Cedric Wilson. They already had Jalen Waddle on the roster. They have Mike Gesicki as their tight end, who is a very underrated tight end, who I really like. I think he's a great tight end in the NFL. But then you just look at the running back position too. They have Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, Sony Michel, and Myles Gaskin. So they have 4 starting level running backs to go along with 3 great receivers, along with a really good tight end. So overall, and they brought in Teron Armstead, and they added Connor Williams to the offensive line. So the offensive side of the ball, they're doing everything that they can to help Tua. become a better NFL quarterback. And I like what they've done for Tua. They're loading him up with weapons. They're loading him up on the offensive line. They brought in Mike McDaniel to help run a better offense than what the Miami Dolphins have been running, because, Brian Flores, while I don't think he should have been fired, offensively, the Miami Dolphins weren't a really good football team. Like, we know that. But you bring a guy in like Mike McDaniel, who worked with Kyle Shanahan, and you give him those weapons, the speed that's on that offense, they're going to do great things this year. I really think that the Dolphins have potential to be a good football team, maybe a playoff team. But the thing with the Dolphins is, one, the AFC is absolutely loaded, so they're going to have a lot to go through there. But I think there's a lot of pressure on Tua this year, because if the Dolphins get trigger happy like they have been Tua's entire career, where if he faces even 1 ounce of adversity, they pull him from games. I've never understood why they've done that. Kind of set his development back. So I really want Tua to be able to start this entire season without pulling him for adversity or anything that's going on with games. I don't want to see Teddy Bridgewater in a single game who they signed this offseason. That's really bad. I don't want to see that. I want them to play Tua all year long, see what he can be made of. And if this year he's really bad and it turns out it wasn't a good move, then that's when you can go big, go for a quarterback eventually. But really, I don't think Tua has ever gotten a fair shake in the NFL, so I really want the Dolphins to give Tua an opportunity this year. But then you look at the defensive side of the ball, the Miami Dolphins have a quietly good defense. They were a part of that 7-game winning streak that the Dolphins had last year after they lost 7 games in a row. So overall, Miami Dolphins, they have a really good defense. They were able to re-sign Emmanuel Ogbah. They picked up the 5th-year option on Christian Wilkins. They have good players in the secondary, Xavier Howard, Eric Rowe, Javian Holland, Byron Jones. So overall, I think the Miami Dolphins, they're a team that is set up to succeed right now. And again, I said all the pressure's on Tua. I fully believe that Tua has got to perform, but overall, I love what the Dolphins have done, but they've got to give Tua a chance to perform. And if they give Tua a chance to perform and then he's bad, by all means, move off of him. But if he just struggles, a couple weeks this year, don't pull him from games. That was one of the most irritating things I watched as an outsider, Tua constantly getting pulled from games. I know Tua is not an elite level quarterback, but I just never felt like Tua has ever been given a fair shake in the NFL. So the Miami Dolphins, number 3 in the AFC East. Coming in at number 2 is the New England Patriots. Now, some people may have them ranked lower, which I completely understand, but I also understand from my perspective why people would rank them high. And this is purely respect out of Bill Belichick, because you're never going to deny a guy that's won that many Super Bowls and has been that successful in his entire career. Now, the thing is the Patriots had a very strange draft, and I mean, it's in the name. They drafted Cole Strange, so it's pretty obvious that the Patriots had a very strange draft. But overall, like I said, this is respect out of Bill Belichick, because the draft was very, very weird. They drafted Tyquan Thornton in the 2nd round, who's a speedster, and this is the part where I could be completely wrong. I've never thought of the New England Patriots as a deep ball kind of team, and I never really thought that this was a smart draft pick, because I thought they could have done better things with their defense, with the defensive side of the ball, especially losing guys like J.C. Jackson, Kyle Van Noy, Dante Hightower not re-signing with them. So there was a lot of things that I thought they could have done a little bit better on the defensive side of the ball over going for a receiver, but I could be wrong, and maybe the New England Patriots are going in a different direction, and maybe they want that speed receiver, because I think the Patriots have solid receivers on their team. They traded for Devontae Parker. They had Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Henry, Nelson Aguilar, and a good run game with Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, and James White. So overall, they have good talent on their offense. It's just, I really didn't think that they needed a receiver of all things. That's just my one question mark. They lost good players. Like I said, Kyle Van Noy, J.C. Jackson on the defensive side of the ball. So I thought that's where they should have went. And I also said in my video about who's going to be the best second-year quarterback, I said that Mac Jones just has to play a little bit better than he did last year and they'll be successful. That's very true. And I know I'm questioning the Patriots when it comes to their draft picks, because Bill Belichick should obviously have his drafting privileges revoked, because that's not something that he's good at. But what he is really good at is taking young talent and making them into stars. So he drafted Marcus Jones, Jack Jones. Those guys may end up becoming the best defensive players in the NFL, because Bill Belichick is just that good. They brought back Malcolm Butler, which that may get awkward at times, who knows, because of the Super Bowl fiasco. So that may be a bit of an issue with them. But at the end of the day, Bill Belichick's so good at taking late round talents, defensive players we've never heard of, turning them into stars. So he can do that. But when it comes to their division, and I still think the Patriots are going to be a playoff team. They made the playoffs last year. I just don't know if they did enough to keep up with Buffalo. I think they're better than the Dolphins. I think they're better than the Jets, obviously. But when it comes to their division, I don't know if they did enough, because that playoff game was not good against Buffalo. They got absolutely steamrolled in it. So I just don't know if they've done enough. Obviously, Bill Belichick's the head coach, so you have to respect him there. But at the end of the day, I just don't know if they've done enough. And that's no hate against Bill Belichick, because you never doubt a guy that's won that many Super Bowls. But I don't know if they've done enough. And then coming in at number one, it's pretty obvious it's the Buffalo Bills. They were 13 seconds away from probably making it to the Super Bowl. I know that was in the divisional round, but Josh Allen was playing so great in these playoffs this past year, throwing 9 touchdown passes in 2 games, demolishing the Patriots, playing an absolutely perfect game against the Chiefs. I don't think I've seen a quarterback play that perfect in a playoff loss in my entire life. So Josh Allen, just the way he was steamrolling through these playoffs, I don't think they would have lost to the Bengals in the championship round, in the AFC championship. I think by far the Buffalo Bills would have been in the AFC championship game. I really do believe that. But obviously, those 13 seconds cost the Buffalo Bills really their season. I don't want to get into the coin toss debate, because there was obviously moments like that where the Bills could have done a little bit better. But overall, I still think the Buffalo Bills are the number one team in the NFL right now, not just the AFC East and not just the AFC. I think they're the best team in the NFL. And that's coming from a Chiefs fan. I think they're absolutely great right now. I think they are going to have a spectacular season next year. They have Gabriel Davis, who became an absolute star in that divisional game against the Chiefs. They signed Stephon Diggs to an extension. They added Jamison Crowder after losing Cole Beasley. They added O.J. Howard to go along with Dawson Knox. They drafted James Cook. So now Josh Allen doesn't have to do everything when it comes to the run game. They got defensive reinforcements. They added Von Miller, who at 33 is still playing at an absolute elite level. They drafted Kier Elam to that secondary to go opposite of Tre'Davious White, to go along with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer as at safety. So overall, I think the Buffalo Bills have made the correct strides to become better. Now, defensively, they had the number one pass defense in the NFL, and they still struggled against the Chiefs. They could not stop literally anything against Kansas City in that divisional round. But I think just overall, maybe the presence of Von Miller will help them. Kier Elam hopefully will, change the presence of that defense. At the end of the day, I don't know if they've done enough to beat Kansas City, but in my mind, I still think they're the number one team in the NFL, because like I said, if they would have gotten past Kansas City, they're winning the Super Bowl. Like, zero doubts in my mind, they're winning the Super Bowl. Josh Allen was playing at an unbelievable level. And if we're being pessimistic, kind of being annoying here, the only thing that you could kind of worry about was Brian Daboll going to the Giants, but I don't think that's going to have that big of an impact on Josh Allen. That coaching staff's been around Josh Allen so long. They've been around with his development. I think he's going to be fine. This is just me trying to point out something to be wrong about the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, the 13 seconds when it comes to their defense, you could chalk that down to coaching, but sometimes when you have veteran players or just, higher IQ players, I guess, because I don't want to say any of these guys are dumb. That's really mean. Those 13 seconds wouldn't have happened. But overall, I think the Buffalo Bills are absolutely loaded. They're loaded on offense. They have unbelievable defensive players. And I think the Buffalo Bills, I think they're winning their division again, and I think it's their division to keep for years to come. I just think Josh Allen's that good, and I think the roster that Buffalo has is that good, and so I have the Buffalo Bills as the number one team, not only in the AFC East, not only in the AFC, but in the entire NFL. But those are my AFC East power rankings. Tell me where you agree, where you disagree. I'm all ears. I'll listen to whatever you guys have to say, where I'm right, where I'm wrong. I'm here for all of it. Give me all your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one.